Hey terrainiacs, Mel the Terrain Tutor back in the studio and back with another terrain lab for you. Now recently we've been working a lot with acrylic filler and we've been looking at the various waterproof properties, and we did that in a previous terrain lab. Okay, now the purpose of this terrain lab is we're going to start doing applied principles. So we're going to be looking at the materials we commonly use, such as grit, clump foliage, water effects, paint, all those sort of things. And we're going to be applying them to our acrylic filler. We're going to be trying different backing materials and various other things. And this is very much applied testing. What we want to do is find the right materials and the right techniques, to use with acrylic filler / caulking, so that we can come up with these battle mats. So I've got a barrage of tests that we're going to be doing. So let's get cracked into some acrylic filler testing time. Come on over to the bench, guys. Come on. Okay, guys, the first barrage of tests I wanted to look at is backing. So we've got our acrylic caulking here. What I want to do is smear it out onto these different backings. So we've got greaseproof paper. Because theoretically it shouldn't stick to that. We've got poly pockets because I want to see how it sticks to that. We've got standard cloth, standard material. We've got what we're calling felt vase, and it's sort of felty on one side, but it's sort of very canvassy and sturdy on the other. So not really sure what the name of that is, so we've called it felt vase. And then we've got linen here, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically run out a squirt on each one, spread it out with a bit of a spatula, okay, and then we're going to see how flexible it is and what the effects the backing does when it dries. So first job is lay 3 squeezes out onto a sheet, just like that. Doesn't it look lovely? And then all we're going to do is spread it out. Just like that. I'm going to try and spread it out, 3 squirts, roughly evenly, so we can get an idea of how it flows and, you know what I mean, how it bends and whether it sticks to stuff. Now, I've done this one. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to do exactly the same. I'll come back once we've got it all down. Okay, that's that done. Now we've smeared a layer on all of them. We've not really gone for any specific details or anything. All we want to do is see how well it attaches to the backing, see what effect the backing has to it, whether it comes off it, whether it sticks to it, all those sort of things. So we can essentially work out whether we can use greaseproof paper to make roads that we can just peel acrylic filler roads, how it works with plastic, whether it sticks to these cloths okay, or whether it has a detrimental effect for when we come to do the battle mats. Now we're not going to know this until it dries, so we're going to leave this to dry and then we'll come back once it's dry, guys. Okay, it's been probably about a week that I've left these to completely cure now. Much longer than they actually needed, but I figured if we're going to see it, let's give it a good week, let them cure. Okay, and this is obviously our backing test. So we've got our poly pockets, we've got our greaseproof paper. That doesn't belong in this one just yet. We've got our cloth, we've got our felt vase, and we've got our linen. Now the first thing to recognise is obviously, we've got warping on all of them, curvatures, quite considerable curvatures. Interestingly enough, our felt vase, the tougher background has sort of helped stop that warping and the shrinking, so that's worth bearing in mind for when we make our battle mats, that there'll be a lot less shrinking over time with a felt with a toughened back than standard cloth. Okay, linen, it's taking it well, but there's no resistance. Now one of the things that we wanted to do was to see how well it rolls and that sort of stuff, so let's roll it up, which is what we do with a battle mat at the end of the day. So like that. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. It works really well. I'm expecting the same with the cloth. Bit stiffer on the cloth actually, surprisingly. I don't think it's down to how it's been spread out. Because it is roughly the same thickness as that. But that just feels a lot easier. Perhaps it's something to do with the warping. Okay, right, over to the linen. How does that roll? That's quite tough as well. That's actually a lot tougher than I expected. I mean, it bends and everything perfectly fine. You know what I mean? And there's no sign of deformation or anything like that, or cracking. I mean, I literally have to fold it right over in a wedge before I can start to see the acrylic filler to sort of split. And if I pull that out, you can see where the white fine line where, you know, we've essentially separated it. Yeah. Right, with regards to material backing, yeah, overall from the experiments, felt vase is looking the best. It's actually got the thickest coating on, and it's actually turned out to be the most flexible. These have stiffened up quite considerably. Now, one of the other things that we wanted to look at was, yeah, this one, yeah, which is our, what you call it, baking paper, our greaseproof paper. Now, from this point of view, we just wanted to see whether it sticks, and it doesn't. Yeah, we can make separate pieces. Now, this is really important, okay? I'm not suggesting you make terrain pieces straight out of acrylic filler, because I'd be worried about whether that would stick to stuff. I'd need to play with it more, or give us some feedback if you've got some experience with just, you know, using acrylic filler on its own, you know, as a basing material. But I do think it'll work really well when we're trying to blend edges and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that is very handy to know. Now, moving over to the Polly Pocket. Now, this was at someone's suggestion. Yeah, it's quite stiff. It's quite nice, actually. I mean, this has got quite a thickness on it, to be perfectly honest. It has warped a little, but only at the edges. The main length is fine. Yeah, so if we pin it down when we do it, it should be absolutely fine. Yeah. Once again, let's check rolling. Stiff, very stiff. Yeah, stiffer than our felt vase. Yeah. If anyone knows what the proper name of felt vase is, yeah, we could do with that as well. But it is bending. We've got a little bit of crack in there, haven't we? Yeah, but I'm assuming that's because it's a little bit too thick there. Does it peel off, this stuff? Can we peel it off? No, it is adhered. We could take it off, to be truthful, with it being plastic, but if you look at it, I am very much ripping little bits. It's not like the greaseproof paper, which peeled off in an easy strip. You know, there is still acrylic filler bound to the plastic there. So, interesting. Definite possibility. Yeah. Possibility more than likely for things I'm imagining like roads and stuff like that. So that's definitely somewhere where I'm going to have a play with that. Yeah. Any information on using Polly Pockets and plastic backing with acrylic filler, throw it in the comments, guys. Overall, from these tests, that's interesting to know that greaseproof paper it doesn't stick to. Yeah, that can be used in a number of ways. Yeah. Felt vase, this idea of the canvas backing, this with a tough backing, this looks to be the best option for our battle mats out of everything we've seen. If there's something else that I need to test, guys, yeah, if you've got different experience, in the comments, yeah? Right, so that's it for these tests. Let's bring up the next lot. Sculpting over time. I just want to see what's the working time of this sort of stuff. Now, this is a bit more of a challenge because this could take quite a while, but I want to see how long I've got to work with it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay some down, and then I'm going to have a mess with it over a period of time while it dries up. Okay, so we know what it's like going down first. Yeah, it's very sticky. Very, very sticky. Yeah, it's very smooth. You can easily reshape it. It holds its shape really well. Yeah, it is tacky. You know what I mean? You could probably create better waves out of it like that than when we did the water one. Now let me smooth this out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to sit here and play with this for a while. Okay. Right, we're about 15 minutes in, and I want to see how much it's dried, how much I can sculpt. It's still pretty much wet, to be perfectly honest. I can smear it, I can move it around. I'm not noticing any major difference. It's started to dry it out around here, so if I bring this up, see where it's really thin there? Yeah, that's pretty toughening up, but where it's thicker, yeah, I can still manipulate it quite a lot without any problems. Yeah, so it's got at least a 15-minute working time. You know what I mean? Look at that. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Right, so that's 15 minutes. We'll try it again in another 15 minutes and we'll see how we're doing then, yeah? See you shortly, guys. Right, guys, we're 30 minutes in, which is roughly the timing limit for working this based on the actual instructions on the back of the tube. Yeah, so if we give it a play, yeah, you can start to see it start, do you see it start bittying up? Yeah, it is definitely feeling tougher. Yeah, I'll tell you one thing, it does hold the detail a lot better. Yeah, at this sort of, what do you call it? It's starting to thicken up around the edges, round there. Can we push it? Yeah, it is still thick. The top surface is relatively smooth and can still be played with, but it is starting to cure. The bottom surface is getting very well stuck. I would say you've got about half hour, maybe 40 minutes to play with this and texture it, you know what I mean? Yeah, before, because I mean it's already, if you see these little bumps, yeah, these little bumps are where the very top bits have cured, dried, and then as we've rubbed them, yeah, they've become like little rocks in it. So I reckon you've got half hour working time at least to texture this up. Yeah, after that I think another 15 minutes or so and we're really going to struggle texture wise. I think we'll still be able to move it around a bit. Yeah, should we see in 15 minutes, eh? Alright, let's give it another 15 minutes and we'll come back. Right, we're 45 minutes in and it's time to see how it's sort of mixing now. Yeah, it's a lot firmer. Yeah, but it's still workable. Yeah, we're getting more of that sort of bittiness from the little bits, but like I say, I could easily work this. It is appearing to be almost a top surface work, and what I mean is, as I'm smoothing over, I'm not getting anything from underneath. Can I scrape it out? Yeah, you can. If you really push in, you can scrape it out, so it is still pliable. Can I completely rework this? Go on, let's give it a good scrape. So yeah, it's stiffer, and where the moisture's been sucked out by the cardboard, yeah, you know, it's started to thicken up, but it's still workable. And looking at it, I mean, I'm not going to keep going on this because, you know, I have a feeling that each time we sort of grab it and we move it around like that, we're essentially reactivating it. Do you know what I mean? Making it afresh. Yeah, but I would say, looking on this, I reckon you've probably got, even though the packet's saying you've got about half an hour, I reckon you can probably push it up to about an hour's working time. The thing is, you need to be working on it. I think if you left this for an hour, yeah, it would be unworkable because the top bits, all these spikes and stuff, will have completely cured by then. Do you know what I mean? And then when you start to rework it, there'll be lots of little bits in it. Yeah, but I reckon you've got about an hour to work this. Which should be enough to do a 6x4 board. Right, that's it. On to the next. Right, for the next barrage of tests, what I want to do is I want to look at how well it sort of takes grit and texture and that sort of stuff. So what I've got is, I've got a load of linen down here. I'm just using that as the base material because I want it to be flexible because we need to test whether the bits fall off as we bend it backwards and forwards. And I've got a few different tests. Right, this one is going to be acrylic filler mixed with, with grit, actually mixed in with it and then applied. With this one, we're going to put the acrylic filler on, yeah, and then we're going to lay grit on top of it, yeah. With this one, yeah, we're going to lay acrylic filler down, and then we're going to put some flock on it, okay. Finally, with this one, we're going to put acrylic filler down, and then we're going to put some static grass and some clump foliage on, and I'm just going to put blodges on. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Now these two at the end, we're gonna mix those up. But then what we're gonna do is afterwards, once they're fully cured, then we're gonna come in and we're gonna PVA on our flock and we're gonna PVA on our grit to see the difference between when we apply it when it's wet or mixing it in, to when we apply it after the acrylic's actually cured. Okay guys, so that's my next job. Yeah, probably the best thing for me to do, because it's lots of little things and messing around, is I'm just going to do it and then we'll jump back when they're all done so you can see them when they're all sort of laid down and everything, and then we'll come back to them once they're dry and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so first let me get them down, yeah? Okay guys, that's all of it layered down now. Right, so we've got the mixed with grit. Quick tip, do not put large rocks in with this. Fine grit is fine. Yeah, obviously, but large rocks make it a nightmare to spread out. Okay, so I won't be doing that again, but we'll see what the grit texture does and what effect it has on it. Yeah, once it's dried. Next up, we've got where we layered grit and large rocks onto it. Now this is still wet, but they've stuck perfectly fine. It's holding well. We'll see how it dries. Same with the flock. Yeah, I did a 3-tone on that. You can see the light and the dark patches. It looks like it's holding it pretty well, so we'll see how that one dries. And then obviously you know what I'm going to say with this one. Yeah, clump foliage, tufts and a bit of static grass. Guess what? We'll see how that one dries as well. Okay, now over here, yeah, I've prepared my sheets for when we PVA grit down and when we PVA flock down. Now what we'll do is at the same time as we PVA those down, we'll have a go at sealing these after we've tested what they're like when they're dry. Okay, so it's a mixed bag experiment with this one. Yeah, next job we got to do with this is just let it dry and have a look at the results. Right guys, results of the texture test. Now first off, we've got our mixture. Okay, this was grit and larger rocks all put in. Now the one thing I want you to really notice about this is with all these others, yeah, we've had, you know, warping, shrinkage, that's caused this bending, yet we haven't had on this one. Okay, and that's because this is a lot tougher. Now it's not as flexible because as you can see, as I've sort of bent it, it's fractured. So if I bend that, you see how it cracks? Okay, so mixing grit in and rocks doesn't work with regards to making battle mats, as in mixing it in with the acrylic. Okay, but it does drastically reduce the shrinkage of acrylic filler. Yeah, so much so, and if I bring that up, yeah, I think if you were to take the larger rocks out, like we originally said, and just went for the small texture, that'd be a great basing compound and is well worth further experimentation on the basing front. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like it'll warp, so I reckon overall that'd be a really cheap and easy basing material. Just mix your grit in with it and just apply it with a brush. Yeah, but overall very nice. Now like I say, I don't think large rocks going into this works because it makes it really difficult to spread, but a fine grit, yeah, that works really well. Okay, so that's mixing it with grit. Right, the next things that we did is we laid on a few different materials. So in the case of this one, yeah, as you can see, there was shrinkage around the edge, but overall the grit has helped sort of reduce the shrinkage. Yeah, and it has. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the bottom of these because I want to seal the top of these. Yeah, so we can have a look once they've been sealed as well. Yeah, but all the rocks are pretty well stuck on. You know what I mean? I can pick them off if I really try, and I can rub it off if I really try. So it's not like it's super glued on. So if I keep going on that bit, yeah, eventually, you know, with friction, we'll get it down to pretty much the bare, the bare acrylic filler. And with that in mind, yeah, obviously, grit can be used for sticking grit down, but it's going to have to be sealed. So we're going to be sealing these afterwards anyway. Yeah. Next up, yeah, we've got when we put our flock down. So once again, we've got this sort of curvature. Out of interest, how does this roll? It doesn't really. The grit really stiffens that up. I think it will roll, but the question is when we unroll it, how much will fall off? Yeah, a reasonable amount. Okay, so applying the grit onto it as a layer definitely stiffens it up. It's still rollable, but I think it's going to need to be adhered better. Adhered. Right, moving on to this one, yeah, which is our flock covering. And we'll just do our test at the bottom again. It stuck it down, but yeah, it's a little harder to wear away because of the nature of the material. But it is coming off. And so if I bring that up, you can see. Now that would take quite a bit of hammer wargaming wise before it, before you had any significant, because I mean I've been rubbing that, so that would take quite a bit of hammer before it sort of wore down. But I do think sealing is the way to go. Yeah, so we'll get some watered down PVA on this and we'll have a look how it handles that. Now on to the final, which was static grass and clump foliage. So that's actually stuck on really well. Really well. They've all adhered pretty well. I mean, I can break the clump foliage off, but I'm breaking the top bits off rather than the bits that are actually stuck into the acrylic filler. That's actually really good. I mean, I can really hammer it and get the bits off. And we still get a bit stuck on. Yeah, but the adherence is pretty good. It will definitely hold it in place while we set it. Yeah, but what we need to do is see how, our acrylic filler handles this. Now, very quickly rolling that up. What sort of effect does that have? Yeah, a few bits dropped off, but everything's pretty there. It's not broken. It's not reacted at all. Right, this one. That's quite stiff, actually. So unroll it. Yeah, we've lost quite a bit off that with rolling it. I'm assuming most of it is going to be the loose that's stuck on top because we've still got a reasonable amount. Right, we need to get these sealed, don't we? So overall, yeah, from these tests, what have we established? Yeah, mixing it with a fine grit, I reckon will make a great basing compound. And I know from prior experience, if I just reach over here, I mix this with grit and it makes quite a good barking compound. It's probably not going to focus, is it? No, you're not, you git. Okay, now this is just acrylic filler mixed with grit. So, as I was playing around, so definitely a goer on that count. Definitely a goer. With regards to sticking down things, whether it be grit, flock, static grass or clump foliage, it works really well. But much like most of our adhesives, you're going to need to seal it. Yeah. With that in mind, my next job is I'm going to drop some watered down PV on these, and then we will come back and see what they're like once they're actually sealed and dry, and see what difference that makes to them. Okay. So I'll crack on with that now. Right. So I've just added a little bit of watered down PVA. Just to seal the top of these. Yeah, we'll leave them dry and then we'll come back and we'll see what effect that is. See if it helps the adherence, see if what it does to the flexibility and the durability of it, okay? So, let's leave them dry, eh? Right, we've got these prepped, and these are prepped for our layering test. So basically they're a piece of linen, yeah, and they've all had a smearing of acrylic filler on them. Yeah, and they're flexible and exactly the same as the other linen as we'd expect. Now what I want to do is I want to see how well, yeah, now this is dried and cured, so to speak. I want to see how well, now it's dried and cured, PVA glues down grit, how well PVA glues down flock, and how well, acrylic filler sticks to itself if it's layered down. So with that in mind, yeah, what we'll do is very quickly, yeah, oh, that was a bit of a shot, wasn't it? Huh? Looks like something else you'd knock out. Right, so put that there. So what I've done, we've put a little blob on there, haven't we? Very nice indeed. And all we're going to do is we'll spray this out. Not spray, thinking about the dog again. Yeah, but we'll spread it out. Yeah, and what we want to do is we just want to see how well it sticks to itself, whether there's any bonding issues. The reason why I want to know is I want to know if we can build things up with this or go in later and patch repair, or whether it's going to cause us problems. So I've done a very rough, and I mean very rough, sort of coating on that, but that should give us an idea. Let's thin it out a bit. that should give us an idea of how well it sticks to itself. So we'll leave that one to dry. Yeah, put that one there. And we'll look at that in a little while. And at the same time, what we want to do is very quickly PVA some grit on here and PVA some flock on here. So a bit cheap and quick, eh? Oh, trust me, PVA be blocked up. Give me a sec. Right, got that on block now. Okay, so let's put a blob on there. If it comes out. Yeah, and very quickly we'll do the same on there. A bit more there. So this is going to get messy because it's quicker and easier this way. Give this a spread about. Yeah, and this is our grit one. So I just want to see how well grit sticks to this. When I say grit, I'm just talking basically a mixture of very fine sand and slightly coarse sand. Grit's actually a little bit thicker than this. Right, so that's that one done. And then we're going to do the same with this one with flock. And then we're going to see how well they handle once they're dried and whether it causes any problems PVAing down directly onto acrylic filler. That's quite a bit on there, so let's spread it out. Because you wouldn't have it that thick if you were actually doing it. Yeah, and over to the flock. I'm not going to put it everywhere on this because it'll be a bit messy. I just want to see the effect. So there we have it, guys. We've got a layer of acrylic filler on top of acrylic filler, and then we've got PVA gritted down and what's it, PVA flock down. Yeah, so we'll see how those dries and come back once they're dry. Okay, final couple of tests just to try a few different things out. What we've got here is we've got our sculpting time piece. Yeah, that's gone really nice and hard, and even though it's on cardboard, it's not actually warped that much. I was expecting more warping on cardboard, to be truthful. Yeah, if that got grit in, it probably wouldn't have warped at all. On here, yeah, what we've got is a piece that I put down, and what I wanted to do was to sort of see, when I was doing it, if we could do like a wave effect, and that's not bad. Yeah, but fundamentally, I want to put some varnish on this and just see how varnish acts with it, you know what I mean? Yeah, and then finally, we've got this. Okay, now this is a bit of a linen, and this is just purely an experiment. I remember when I was doing the acrylic water, the realistic water vids, that when I cut out one of the ponds that I'd done, what I peeled out was essentially flexible vinyl. And I'm curious to know if we can pour it in there, yeah, and get flexible water. Yeah, so that's our job. So we've got still water for that, that's Vallejo acrylics. We want to put some varnish on that, and I'll go for a Humbrol matte coat for that. And then on the sculpting time one, I'm just going to dry brush a bit of tan flesh onto it. Yeah, just because I think it's an interesting contrast, and we'll see how it handles paint. I'm expecting it to handle paint perfectly fine, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, but let's crack on. So first one we'll do is we'll just get some paint on this one, eh? Yeah, so spread that out. Now, I'm not going for any painting awards or any, you know, anything along those lines. I just want to get a basic idea of how well it takes paint. Yeah. Now, sometimes when you put paint on material, it doesn't adhere, it sort of runs off and, you know, it pools into itself depending on the water tension. Yeah. Straight off the top. Yeah. This is really nice. It's taking a solid cover, it's not running, it is adhering, so that's a good sign. Yeah, dry brushing wise, yeah, that's quite nice. Pardon my belly. So if you see there, yeah, it's dry brushing perfectly fine. And what we'll do is we'll leave that a little bit wet. Okay, and then while I do these, we'll come back at the end and just make sure that the paint doesn't reactivate the acrylic filler, you know what I mean? So we've got paint on that one. Next job we need to do is varnish on this one. So now this is an acrylic varnish. Okay, if I can open it. Oh damn, give me a sec, guys. So got my lid open, yeah, and all we're going to do is we're going to give this a reasonable coat. Yeah, and we'll see what it does to it. Yeah, we'll put it slap bang in the middle because we can bend it around a bit, can't we? We can sort of see what effect putting a matte varnish on it has. Now it already seems to be reacting. No, that's the paint from the previous job. That's all right. For a minute then, I thought it was reacting with the actual acrylic filler, but it's not. It's reacting with a bit of paint that I had on there. Right, so that's the varnish done. Yeah, and then finally, yeah. Now, I'm not going to worry about getting it perfect or bubbles or anything like that. All I'm going to do is, yeah, I need to put a top on it if I'm going to shake it. I'm just going to pour a little puddle out there and get a thin coating on. Yeah, and once we've got a thin coating on, we'll leave them all dry and see what they come out like. So, there we go. Right, so that's our watering with that one. Now quickly before we move on, let's just come back and have a look to see if the paint has done anything to the acrylic filler. No, it hasn't. Okay, it's softened it a tiny amount. If I bring that right up to the camera and I go over that little peak there, it's flapping backwards and forwards just on the very extremity, which means moisture will obviously reactivate it, but it's going to take a hell of a lot of moisture to reactivate it. I don't think it's going to be a problem, guys, to be perfectly honest. I think you'll be able to paint on this and not worry about losing your detail, unless you're flooding the area with a hell of a lot of paint and then going in with a brush, yeah, and sort of moving it around. Then you might have problems. But just generally putting a paint coat on, don't think you'll have a problem with that at all, to be perfectly honest. So there's our tests. Our next job, yeah, as always, yeah, oh, my phone's going off. As always, guys, is we need to leave them dry, yeah, see what the actual results. That's going to take a couple of days to dry, to be perfectly honest, so I want to give it a couple of days. I've got bubbles in it. Right, we'll come back when these are dry, eh? See you shortly. Right, guys, final results are in, and let's take a wander through them, eh? Okay, starting off with where we've layered down with PVA. Now, previously, yeah, we put down the grit straight onto the wet acrylic filler and see how that worked as an adhesive, and it worked really well, yeah, but it did need sealing, which is what we've done there. Now this is it glued down, so acrylic filler gone down, the acrylic filler's dried, we've then laid PVA over the top and dropped grit on, and that is a lot firmer than that. Yeah, a lot. I mean, I'm actually wearing away and taking the skin off my finger rather than, so that's a winner. Now the question is, how does it affect the rolling? Now I will be honest with you, it's a bit cold in my studio today. Yeah, so these are a little bit stiffer than they've been in the past, and I've compared ones that I've done nothing extra to and they are a bit stiffer, so temperature is a factor obviously. Yeah, but there you are. As all things, yeah, once you put a bit of movement in them, they warm up. But that's brilliant. So just dropping PVA straight down on top of dried filler is a great way of texturing it. You've got the flexibility. I mean, I'm losing a little, but this isn't even sealed. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to have a look at this one, which we did seal. Yeah, see if that holds it up and we can combine those, yeah, to get grit down on. And like I say, we've got flexibility there. It might be a little stiff if it's cold. But you can soon warm that up, can't you? Right, onto the PVA. Right, this is where we PVA'd flock down. Okay, so the acrylic filler was dry. Yeah, so yeah, that's good as well. That's really good. Can we get it off? Come on, let's give it a good rub and get it off, eh? Come on. Do I need to go faster? Right, let's give it a wiggle instead. I don't suggest rolling it up like this. I'm sorry, I mean. Alright. Right, so yeah, it's still rolling. We're losing a bit, which you would expect, because there's going to be some loose on there anyway, but it's a good adherence. I think if once it's sealed, it'll be even better. Yeah, but flexibility's fine, dropping the PVA on. I'm not getting any weird white marks or the stretch marks with the PVA where I've got PVA here, you know. We're on a winner with that one, guys. Okay, so that's our PVA layer down. Now let's nip back to where we laid stuff straight down onto, wet acrylic filler. Yeah, so this was where we put the filler down. We then dropped our grit, our clump foliage, static grass and our flock straight onto the wet filler and used that to stick it, which is what's at the bottom. And then at the top, after we'd looked at that, we sprayed our watered down PVA on it to seal it, and that it's quite tough. Now I've got quite big rocks on here, and I think they are going to fall off if I give them, but yeah, maybe not. Yeah, so if you catch them and you give them enough force, you can break them off. Right, how does that affect flexibility? So sealing definitely does make a massive difference. Yeah, and I think combining it rather than using the acrylic filler, yeah, to stick stuff down, what we should do is put the acrylic filler down, then glue the grit on, and then seal it, and get the best of both worlds looking at these results. Yeah, I think big rocks I'm going to have to be careful with. I'm going to have more of a play with those. You see where they've fallen off and left pot marks. Yeah, because they are easy to catch, but the actual grit itself, which is the important thing, the coarse sand, yeah, for those who don't know what grit is, it's all right. It really is. So we're on a winner with that one. All right. Next one. Let's do flocking next, because we like flocking. Yeah. Okay. So this was stuck down onto wet acrylic filler. Yeah, and then this bit was sealed. So this bit quite soft. Yeah, put a nail in there. I mean, it's well stuck down, but I can, you know what I mean? Can get stuff off it. If we go up to the top where it was sealed with PVA, that's pretty well. That's definitely firmer, definitely more stuck down. Can I rub it off? No. Roll test. Fine. We're losing a little, but we will. You know, whenever you do anything new, you always lose a bit, you know what I mean? I can't do a single piece without losing a little bit that hasn't been quite well stuck down. But I mean, for how much I'm losing, you know, I think after a couple of shakes and sort of a bit of play on it, you lose your initial, and then what you've got left is well stuck. But those results are great. I think those results would be even better if we glued them down with PVA first rather than using the acrylic filler to stick it down, because there is a significant difference. Yeah, so we're on a winner with that one. Right, our clump foliage now. Up here, this is where we put our watered down PVA on. It's worked. It hasn't affected it that much. It's stuck it all down really well. I mean, with them being large clumps, I can break them off, but if you see what I'm doing, I'm breaking the clump off the clump that's stuck down rather than the clump coming away. Yeah, yeah, so really well stuck. Watered down PVA works well in that case, and it's not really affecting. It is stiffening the acrylic filler up a little, but nothing that'll be. I mean, look how tight I'm rolling this up. You know what I mean? So if we can do this with this, we've got to be on a winner, haven't we? You know what I mean? So sealing with watered down PVA, yeah. My recommendation so far is when laying down grit and flock, etc., don't use the acrylic filler to stick it. Yeah, actually stick it down with PVA and then seal it with PVA based on these experiments, but we'll be doing more experiments. You know what we're like. Right, so that's those done. We've got a couple more sort of little oddball experiments to look at. Right, this is our layering upon layering. So we put a layer of acrylic filler down, we layer it cure, then we dropped another one on. Yeah, now this is quite thick. It's still flexible. Yeah, it has completely adhered and bonded, yeah, with the next surface. I mean, you can break little bits off, but it's stuck well. So acrylic filler sticks really well to acrylic filler. Yeah, it is quite thick in places because it's a double layer. So we're getting this. You see that cracking? Yeah, from where it's thick. Right, let's give it a roll. Oh, yeah, I can do this. I can do this. Come on. Yeah. Oh, there, brilliant. Right, back up. Yeah, and it's still flexible. I mean, obviously now I've given it a good roll, it's a bit more flexible. So yeah, we can thicken up with acrylic filler. It doesn't seem to be a deal breaker. Yeah, we've just got to be careful of these breaks seem to be in fault lines, do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I think it's going to come to a matter of just a little bit of experience learning what sort of things work and what don't. But that's for future experimentation. But yeah, layer on layer, it works fundamentally. It's still flexible. Yeah, it does stick. Yeah, so when it comes to doing our battle mats and that sort of stuff, yeah, we can sort of put a thin layer down, yeah, get a basic layer down, then do certain thickenings, that sort of stuff. Right, varnish test. Okay, this is the one that we went over with our varnish. I think we went over with a matte varnish. Yeah, and that's the actual result. Now, it hasn't had any adverse effects as such. It feels slightly tougher, yeah. With regards to the flexibility, I know this is cardboard, but if I bend where it hasn't, where it hasn't been varnished, what you see is that white line, which is the stretch mark, yeah, of the acrylic filler getting stretched. But if I bend on the where we've varnished, we get a crack line. Yeah, well now what's happening here is, yeah, the varnish is set across the top surface and bonded it as hard, and there's no stretch in varnish, so as we've levered it, it's literally cracked. So my gut feeling is we keep varnish well away from this stuff. Although going straight down on top of it, it's not actually harmed it, it's going to have issues when it comes to the matte flexibility. Now if you're using this stuff on something that isn't flexible, it's not an issue, is it? You know what I mean? It's a really good toughener, to be perfectly honest. I'm not sure what you'd use that for, but we wanted to know, didn't we? Right, that leaves us with the final test, which was our, was it Vallejo acrylic? Yeah, that stuff. Yeah, now we've dropped it in, and what we did is we made this, and we made the bit of a lip and we poured it in, didn't we? Yeah, and somehow I managed to trap something red underneath it. Yeah, but as you can see, now, it's peeled away from there. It wasn't that bad. I've had a little bit of play before I came on, to be truthful. One issue with this isn't so much the acrylic filler, it's how deep and solid I've had to do these, sort of large bits. And as you can see, because they are, we've had a crack there. Now, we'll forgive that on the simple basis that, personally, we can have a play with this. This was just a way of getting a deep pour. Overall, I can't see that there's been any sort of adverse reaction between the polyurethane? Yeah, it is. The polyurethane of the still water and the acrylic filler. Yeah, or caulking if you prefer to call it that way. There's been no adverse chemical reaction, and it is still flexible. Which means with a bit of experimentation and a bit of playing, yeah, I reckon we can get flexible rivers that actually are made to look like water. Yeah, now you've obviously got this bit here. If I bend that back, I'm guessing if I grab that, whoa, wasn't expecting that. Now look at that. What's happened there? That was initially, that's bonded for some reason, and it's bonded there as well, but it hasn't bonded to anything else. So my gut feeling is perhaps that was a little bit wetter or hadn't fully cured when this dropped in. Yeah, but as you can see, you know, that's peeled out. It hasn't adhered to the rest of it, which is why I'm thinking these sort of dodgy areas, so to speak, were where it's just slightly a little bit wetter. That's the only thing I can think of. Do you know what I mean? Because why would it not adhere to the rest of it? But fundamentally, this does show signs that this is worth exploring further. Do you know what I mean? So, when it comes down to our acrylic filler, we've done a fair few tests now. It's standing up to it, it really is. I think we found the backing material with our felt vase. Yeah, we know that layering it down, putting our grit and that sort of stuff actually down with PVA and then sealing it with PVA appears to be the better way to go. Yeah, when adding things like grit, sand and grit, flock, clump foliage, static grass, etc. Yeah, we've learned to avoid water. We know we can build it up in layers. We've interesting results. So there's potential for further exploration when it comes to, what do you call it, our water. Interesting stuff. Now, the next stage, obviously, with these experiments is to take them to the next stage. Yeah. Which, I think, to be truthful, what we need to do is start making small little battle mats and combining lots of these elements. Yeah, and on a more practical application. So, I think that's a terrain lab you're going to see coming in the near future, guys. Maybe next month, maybe the month after. But, I think we're at that stage now. And hopefully, after that one, we'll have hammered all this down, we'll know this is a material inside out, and we'll all be producing awesome roll-away battle mats. Yeah, I've got to play with teddy bear fur before that though. That's another terrain lab for you. Right, let's get set up for the long shot. So there you have it, the results are in, guys, and it is looking good. We've identified our backing materials, we've figured out how we're going to stick things down, how we're going to seal it. We've got things to look at with regards to water effects and, you know, really taking our battle mats up to the next level. And I've certainly got plenty to play with, and hopefully you have as well. I think there's still a little bit more experimentation to do, like I said, and I think the best thing to do is let's start looking at 1 foot by 1 foot sort of battle mat tiles and start playing with it and see if we can build it up a bit more before we go on for the full-on battle mats. With that in mind, yeah, I'm going to start putting together another set of series of terrain labs, possibly for next month or the month after. Yeah, but we've also got to look at teddy bear fur as well. Yeah, so it's been a cracking, hasn't it? I really feel like we're nailing this material down, and I hope you're finding this useful, guys. Obviously, if you are finding it useful, then like it. If you've got anything to add, and I am really reaching out to the guys who are using this stuff, yeah, give us your information down below. Any questions, any materials, anything you'd like me to try out when it comes to acrylic filler, yeah, get it down below. This is very much community testing. I want to get this material nailed down so we've got it definite, we know what to do with it, and we can all use it, you know what I mean? And with that in mind, yeah, if you like what I do and you like these videos and they're useful to you, please realise, yeah, I mean, these videos aren't quick 5-minute things I can sit down and knock out, just stick a camera on, blah 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 blah, and knock out. Yeah, terrain takes time. Terrain tutorials, video editing takes even longer, which is, you know, why I ask for your support. So if you like these videos, please, you know, consider jumping on Patreon, throwing $1 into the hat, yeah, and sort of help me find the time to make more of these videos for you, because I really can't do it without you, and I really do need your support, guys. Yeah, no, if you're not into the Patreon thing and you prefer like a one-off, that sort of stuff, there's the link to PayPal down below. You can just send a one-off, and that sort of goes into the material budget for buying everything and all that sort of stuff. Whatever you do, well, you know, I appreciate it, guys. I really do. Okay? And so with that in mind, I think it's time for me to sort of wind this up before I start rambling again like I usually do. Yeah, so that's it for this week, guys. Yeah, another terrain tutorial coming at you on Terrain Tuesdays 4 PM on the Terrain Shooter channel. I'm liking that. Yeah, and until then, yeah, I'll probably see you on a live show or something, won't I? So keep your eyes out, because Mel ain't going anywhere, you know what I mean? See you soon, guys. Ta-ra.